Live from the UK, broadcasting around the world. You're listening to the Mic Drop Club, hosted by Douglas Hamandishe. Message received. You do not need to know what you need. Just engage with the podcast feed. Providing weekly insights into cool stuff we've read, saw, did, or heard about what made us say, wow, eureka, damn, nothing is off limits. If it motivates and inspires you to reach your goals, then it shall be discussed. Featuring guest interviews from high performers and people of influence, and weekly awards for the best mic drop moment. This podcast is guaranteed to leave you pumped up for the week ahead. Don't just live life. Make life boom.
Hi, everybody. It's Douglas Hamandishe with another episode of the Mic Drop Club. And I'm super happy to have Andrew Rolf back in the house. And as you know, we do like a rolling series and we break down transformation in all its dimensions and guises. And this time we want to look at the toxic traits of transformation and what to look out for and how to resolve some of those complexities. Yep. So with no further ado, Andrew, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks, Douglas. Great to be here again. I think this one's going to be a really interesting and kind of topical conversation.
No, brilliant. I think it needs to be done, you know, in terms of the toxicity. You know, it's a word that's come into the public vernacular now in so many different industries. But when we talk about toxicity within digital transformation, what is it? How do we recognize it?
Well, I think this is going to be a really interesting topic, and the reason I feel it's so relevant is because we hear a lot in the news at the moment about how the workplace is changing, how post-COVID hybrid workplace, we have a multi-generational workplace where we've just had International Women's Day. We're talking about diversity and inclusion. Lots of things are changing in the workplace. Some might argue they're not changing fast enough, or it's taken us a long time to get where we are. But for whatever reason, there's a lot of change in the workplace, and there's a lot of conversation that I hear about: are employees happy? Are people enjoying their time in the workplace? And this really came home to me in January. I read an article which introduced a kind of a new term to me, which is resenteeism. So we hear about presenteeism, where people sort of feel like they need to be in an office or be online and just but they haven't really shown up for work. You know, they're there in person, but their mind isn't there. Resenteeism is where you're staying at a job even though you hate it. So this idea, you resent being there, but you're going to stick it out. And this is a real challenge for organizations who want to change or transform, because in order to do that, you need to have a kind of an organization that trusts each other, that can communicate openly. These are things we've talked about before. There's no secret sauce to this. And are aware of what the transformation is about to take place. You know, they've defined it properly. They defined the outcomes. They've scoped it and sized it, and people can get their heads around exactly what this transformation means. If your workforce at the same point of time is also just kind of like just clocking in and clocking out and really kind of hating the job, they're still doing the same boring tasks, or they don't feel like they're productive, then there's a problem. You know, we talk about these phrases like we're turning the super tanker. Turning a super tanker full of people who don't even like their job is going to be doubly hard. So I think the conversation I'm looking forward to having this evening is, like, should transformations be fun? Is that what we're looking for here? And what are some of the things that we talk to ourselves when we talk about transformations that perhaps kind of preconditions us? You know, we talk about, we kind of, I think there's almost a situation where we're slightly setting ourselves up for failure in transformation just because of the way that we approach the subject. So that's kind of the background that I wanted to start with.
Interesting. No, I like the way you're framing it there. Are you referring to this? Is it residency, did you say? What was the term you called it?
Resenteeism or resenteeism. So like you resent, it's like a combination of presenteeism and resenting the organization or the tasks that you resenteeism. So I think this appeared in the Guardian newspaper, appeared on Guardian Online back in January, and I don't know, that piqued my interest. And I thought, is this one of these things where it's just like one of these kind of silly fads where you kind of join two words together and suddenly you've got like a kind of, it's a new thing. But actually, I kind of witnessed this. We're around people in the workplace and on transformation programs all the time, both of us. You when you hear the term, actually you think, yeah, no, I've probably encountered a bit of that.
Sure. Is that and is that similar to another word that kind of like caught fire to the beginning of 2023, which was quiet quitting, where you have people who turn up to work,
so I think
do not resign, but decided to the fate of staying put.
So I think post-COVID, there's so many interesting things going on in the workplace. And here I'm talking about transformation projects and people who are just sort of working in a sort of operational role. So we had the Great Resignation. Then we had this quiet quitting thing. You've basically kind of checked out. You're sort of just going through the motions, and now this resenteeism, where you kind of actually kind of going into the workplace or being present at work. It's really bugging you now. This is actually you're sort of really frustrated. Every kind of, there's so much kind of friction, tension. You're just not doing what you feel you're capable of doing, but you stick it out because you miss. Maybe you weren't in that cohort that resigned in the Great Resignation. You haven't found this new role. Economically, the world is not. It's not an easy time right now. We're in a recession. We're looking at low growth for the rest of 2024 in the UK. The G7 is the same. I'm not an economist, but I can read the financial press, and people are thinking, oh gosh, maybe it's too risky. I'll kind of stay put, even though I hate it.
Yes.
So you're right. Yes. I think they're connected.
Most definitely. And as I view the whole thing, that the whole phenomena post-COVID, and I think there are murmurs of this going on since we broke Moore's law and technology went exponential. Mm-hmm. There's been this compelling urge for the human being to redefine what it means to be human and what work means. Then that plays out with this whole quest for equitable work environments. It's all trying to create environment, I guess, that is best fits everybody, but there's a danger it fits nobody. So yes. I'm seeing the tectonic plates have shifted. However, where they've shifted to, you can no longer see where the plates were once connected before.
Yeah.
Unlike when we take a look at the Earth, we can see Africa was connected to the Americas. You can see what would have happened over a long period of time. I think the way technology has moved exponential and it's just gone nuclear with this AI stuff.
Yeah.
There might not be any way of identifying how we are now and our wants, our needs, our fears, our concerns, our aspirations to what we actually do in the workplace. There's a coldness that's come in the middle.
I completely agree. And what I see is that I see a lot of people who feel like they really lack a sense of purpose when they're at the workplace. So they want to be fulfilled. Generally, people want to either do a task as well as they can, or try to make things better. You and I are in the business. We're professional problem solvers. We're in the business of trying to spot areas to improve, trying to identify those opportunities, and trying to bring mobilize a group of people to sort of do something about that. So when people talk about, having fun in the workplace, it feels a little bit frivolous sometimes. Whenever you hear that headline, should we be having more fun in the workplace? You can almost guess that the photo that goes alongside it is of, I don't know, a table football table in the cafeteria area or a ping pong table in the kind of breakout area. And that's not what I mean at all. I think those things are just sort of window dressing and kind of largely irrelevant. What people really mean about having fun is they want to feel motivated, fulfilled, they have a sense of purpose, that they have some sense of security. And I don't just mean like a job for life, but they have the security that they can call things out, that they're not going to be punished for speaking the truth, that if for any reason they're unable to achieve the tasks that they've been set, they're not going to be punished for it. Those are the things that I think define the modern workplace. And really all of the conversation that we're having about sort of diversity, inclusion, gender equality, it really frustrates me that we can't get those things sorted out. Those are things that we've been talking, ever since I've been in the workplace, the volume's been being turned up on that over 30 years of my working life. The volume has been turned up more and more on that. And I still think we have so much, some people might say, well, you're a kind of educated, middle-aged white guy. You kind of haven't experienced some of the challenges that other people have. And that's true. I haven't experienced those challenges. But it really bugs me that organizations can't get their heads around this and get on with this, because there's so much more to do. This is, we survive, we reinvented all our organizations during the COVID pandemic. And we could continue that reinvention and that reorganization, that flexibility, and all those things that we were able to do during the pandemic. We seem to be kind of retrenching, and that really bugs me. That's not kind of those are sort of baseline things which every organization should be doing, I think. So that's just what organizations should be doing, whether they were transforming themselves or not. The transformation piece lends a whole nother layer to it, which we can talk about in a minute. But I think that, sort of people sort of almost, I feel that the workforce has a right to be doing fulfilling, meaningful work. And it is, it frustrates me when I can't do that. And I can imagine for many other people doing kind of, mundane tasks, or, it's yet another spreadsheet or yet another PowerPoint deck. It's like, really, surely we've got beyond that now. And maybe AI will solve some of it, but, maybe it won't. Who knows?
This is a very meaty subject, as you rightfully described earlier. There's a lot to unpack, because transformation is first and foremost a human process. It's a human activity. Although there's products, services that can interplay with it, it's essentially human. And there's no denying, there's no question, we've had two seismic events that's happened. COVID, as well as AI is coming in. Never has it been more acute that we can go to work and produce things that we're so far removed from what we've produced. So, for example, if in the industrial age, if say we were working in a mill, a steel plant, making cars or whatever it is, you know what you were doing. Like, say you worked on put the engine into the car body. End product was the car, and it's not too far from you. So there's a connection with your end produce. Mm-hmm. When the UK has moved into a more service-based model, there's such a disconnect between what we are doing and the end product. Sometimes people don't even know what the end product actually is. It's almost like we're all drop shipping. Don't worry, you want a t-shirt, just fill the order here, it'll come printed directly from source to your address. There's no love. There's nothing that you're doing. We're more facilitative and trying to find value in those types of jobs is extremely difficult. And I'll just say some words you just said there. We need to agree and define what work is. There's a dictionary definition of what work is, and then see where fun fits in there. Or because as we're looking for purpose, I guess, an away day where you get muddy, you help your colleagues over the trenches. we almost got like a bullshit detector. We want to enjoy ourselves on this away day, only to get back to the base camp and have a team building exercise. It just becomes work. There's no like actually real having fun, letting your head down. There's an ulterior motive behind the activity. And because I think we all got hip to the game, we've seen our parents go on these away days, come back pissed off, annoyed.
Yeah.
And now we are going on there, and we're thinking there's no real intrinsic value to what we're doing. And on top of that, we can work remotely. So some people, I started a business in COVID. I met my business partner twice. Yeah. Twice in that time. So bonds are not the same as they used to be. There's a lot of losers here. Middle management, I'll say they've lost. Those ones that are tasked with productivity and seeking out efficiency gains. They're going through a bereavement, a real bereavement in terms of loss of purpose, loss of role. How do I herd my flock, my cats, when they're all in their own homes, and the clarion call might ring, get everybody back at work, just so that they can be controlled. But they don't want to be controlled now. So what work are you doing? How are you going to justify to your hierarchical structures that you add value to the organization?
Do you struggle to prioritize your tasks to achieve your goals? Surely there's a better way. We don't have to land in space to be great. Frankly, we don't need to. But given the opportunity, wouldn't you like to do something spectacular and make an impact? Tune in to the Mic Drop Club, where the secrets behind achieving extraordinary results are shared weekly with your host, Douglas Hamandishe. We'll be with you every step of the way, giving you all the motivation to not just live life, but to make life boom.
I'm keen to see how you're going to address this one, because
so I think
it's worthy of a book.
There's definitely a chapter in here, if not a whole book. I think the thing that you were saying just now, Douglas, about we've lost the kind of human element here. Technology doesn't transform organizations, humans do. Technology can be that lever or the catalyst, or it can kind of be your Trojan horse, or whatever kind of metaphor you want to use. Yes, technology can do a lot of things. Yes, AI is going to do a lot of things. We're just in the foothills of that at the moment, but it's still people who take the decisions, and it's people who are affected. You think about every transformation that you or I have been involved in. The thing that's going through the minds of the people who are listening to your sort of presentations is, am I safe? Is my job safe? Am I going to be okay? It very quickly becomes very personal when you're talking about transformation. So I've been thinking about the human dynamic, because this idea of purpose and fulfillment, they're very human things. What's fulfilling to me isn't the same as to somebody else. So we should dwell on it a little bit. The checklist I've been using recently is around the sort of health of a transformation project. To kind of a really good indicator is whether I can detect a sense of humor. Because being able to use humor in the workplace is actually, it requires it requires a lot of conditions to be able to do it. And I don't just mean sort of cracking, wisecracking. I mean, to be able to sort of, be self-deprecating, to kind of look at a situation that maybe isn't going well and see the kind of funny side of things, to kind of use humor to break the ice, or to kind of just throw in something to kind of just to kind of reduce the temperature of a meeting, for example. So if I can detect a sense of humor, then that's a really good sign. It usually is that, people, it's very easy in transformations to kind of suddenly take yourself a little bit too seriously. You know, this program is going to change the face of XYZ forever. This is our fork in the road, or this is cutting the red wire or cutting the blue wire. You know, once we've done it, we're off, and it's like a really big moment, and it's really important. And sure, there are big decisions to take in a transformation, that no question, but also you've got to know how to let off steam during a transformation. You've got to know how. I talked about this sort of indicators. If I see a team that maybe goes to lunch together once a week or once a month, you know, people might not be in the office, but when they do come to the office, it's a really big occasion and people make the most of it. A team that maybe, you know, celebrates a birthday, or somebody's got engaged, or there's someone's had a baby, or their partner's had a baby. Those kind of things are really important because they kind of are an indicator of the sort of level of humanity on that project. And that's like, it sounds like a really kind of highfalutin way of describing it. But when those things are absent from the project, it becomes very transactional. You know, you're like a kind of cog in the machinery. It feels like you're just kind of going through all the steps, and yeah, okay, you can go through all the steps, but you know, we're humans. we like all of those things, right? You know, today, 10th of March in the UK, it's Mother's Day. You know, that's an important celebration. That's a, you know, some people would argue, you know, we should be celebrating it more than just one day in the year, but you know, it's an important thing to do, and that makes us human. It makes us connected, and I think that ability to, as a team, to be able to sort of step back, to be able to take a breath, to regroup, all of those things are really important, because sometimes transformations can be very draining. The number of decisions, we've talked about decision making in the past, and you can get decision fatigue. You know, people can't work at 100%, you know, day in, day out. It still amazes me the number of meetings that people attend and how badly meetings are organized, and all of the sort of inefficiencies around meetings. A meeting itself, yes, you've got people together, but that doesn't mean you've got them singing from the same hymn sheet. You know, they might be together, or they might be together in the room, but they're not sort of feeling like a collective. And those are some of the things that I'm looking for, as to either sort of be reassured that a project has got the conditions for success to transform, or that they're going to encounter like really hard yards. You know, there's plenty of things that go wrong in transformation projects. You know, technology doesn't work, the data doesn't work the way you want it to do. You know, there's dozens and dozens of things that could go wrong. The contracts don't, you know, it's endless. So, but if you can get the people working together, then you've got a fighting chance of getting the transformation done. If the people aren't together, if you've got less than the sum of the parts, if you like, you've got a group of individuals that aren't connected by a sort of respect and trust for each other, then you're really, you know, you haven't got that we're in it together feel, or we're just trying to do the right thing as a sort of principle for the way that you turn up for work. Then you're going to find the program doubly tough. So those are the kind of things I'm looking for. And I'm sure you must have kind of encountered some of those things. You know when your team is sort of cooking on gas. You know, you've got each other's back. You're kind of, you know, you might have differing opinions, but you can kind of talk about that in a kind of, you know, in a kind of productive way.
There's a lot in there, and what I'm going to try and do is pin you down and play a bit of devil's advocate. Devil's advocate here. When we're talking about looking for signs that there's humor in the workplace, people can feel like they're adding value. There's less fear of being judged and even fired, fear of punishment, as it were. Why does that even matter? I mean, do we go to work to have fun? You know, the dictionary definition of work, an activity involving mental or physical effort done in order to achieve a purpose or result. And for many years, you know, work, in fact, I would say for centuries,
Yeah.
Work has not been a place where we have to sing kumbaya around a fire and toast marshmallows. You know, this notion that we must be happy and we must have friends, you know, I mean, what's the big deal? Why is it even important? Why do we need to be thinking like that in the first place?
So and should the workplace be fun, or should transformations be fun? Is almost like it's the headline is there almost to allow us to start having this conversation, because I think there's a lot of validity in the idea that the workplace doesn't have to be fun. You know, it's not a leisure pursuit. It's not a pastime. You know, it's an exchange of my time, and I exchange my time for money. And that's how that is at its core. You might exchange products or, some kind of output in return for money. And as I said before, sometimes the word fun kind of makes it feel like it's frivolous. Where I think I end on the dial here is that there has to be a sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose, and the sense of fulfillment and purpose. 150 years ago, if we were having this conversation looking at, people working in a textile mill or something, their sense of fulfillment and fun might just have been, to be paid on time, to be given some form of, the money that they earn was realistic and reasonable compensation that allowed them to buy food and shelter and those kind of things. And 150 years ago there was a strong argument to say that that money that was being earned was still sort of exploitative. There was certainly no definition of fun or that side of it. But there was a sense of a sort of a fulfillment, a set of tasks. To complete those tasks, get rewarded with payment of some kind. And I think that the thing that is frustrating so many people that I encounter is that the tasks that they're doing either feel very disconnected from some kind of outcome. So how does this PowerPoint that I've been asked to prepare in any way move the dial or move the ball forward? Again, pick your metaphor, make a difference to the vision that I've heard about for this company or organization? How am I understand that I might be a small cog in the machinery, that I'm, part of a workforce of 10,000 people, but I still want to feel like I'm making a difference and I'm in some way useful. So I think you're probably right to be the devil's advocate. I think, I don't think workplace necessarily has to be fun. We don't have to find our entire friendship group through our colleagues. It would kind of be a bit weird if we did, but, I understand that some people, they love their job and their job is everything, and that's where they find their friendship group. And for other people, it's absolutely not the case. But I do think that organizations, particularly those who are about to embark on a transformation who find themselves in a transformation, need to really work much harder on helping their employees to understand what their sense of purpose is. And some of the ways they can do that are by being better at explaining what their vision is, being better at linking that vision to the different departments within their organization, and really kind of, this PowerPoint that I'm preparing is a presentation that's going to go to these people, and the information in it is going to be used to make this decision, and that decision will have an impact on these things. That's the kind of stuff. And, that I sometimes think that the sort of middle management of an organization gets a bit of a kind of raw deal. They're the people who are often trying to do that translation and explain to people in the lower down in an organization how their work kind of fits into the bigger picture. But anyway, those are the kind of that's where I sort of come at it. I'm not looking for the workplace to just be kind of, sat around a campfire. I think that's unrealistic. In fact, I think, workplaces need to perhaps be a little bit more ruthless sometimes, about exactly why are we here. We might have just lost sight a little bit. There's plenty of big organizations that get a bit kind of lazy, bureaucratic, a bit sloppy sometimes. They kind of overhire. They've got they're kind of riding a wave and they can kind of get away with it. But actually, the leaner organizations, the ones going through that transformation, those are the ones who are, making the hard yards, doing the right thing, trying to work out exactly how do all these pieces fit together for the most productive way. Because when people feel productive, that correlates with them feeling fulfilled. It tends to correlate with them wanting to stay longer with an organization. They talk more positively about that organization as an employer to their peers. There's a kind of a flywheel effect, if you like, of positivity around it. But no, I'm definitely not for campfires and toasting marshmallows.
No, it's just an interesting dimension that I guess some of the points you raised about equity at work, how can we not get the right balance of different people in the workplace? Maybe it is a good thing to aspire to, to have that environment where everybody is unified, around the tasks that they do. And that's their core bonding, but also it does bring itself challenges. You're then saying that, okay, the people that look like you, that have the same core values as you, you find them in your workplace, and which is an environment where, as you rightly said, you go in there to do some labor, for which you shall get compensated. And in days of old, that compensation would enable you to do the things that you would now love to do.
Yeah.
So you put up with your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So you get your money and go on and do something else. So the work isn't something that is over encroaching on the human being. It's a part of their structure, yes. However, it's not all encompassing. And I think where we have technology, a digital transformation that's technologically enabled digital transformation, there's a sense of inevitability about it. It's almost like a fait accompli. If a company decides to roll out X, it's going to happen as a solution. It's going to happen anyway. Whether it's frictionless or removing the friction is what we try to do as transformational leaders, getting all the human factors in place, making it soft landing, winning hearts and minds and making sure things are embedded. But equally so, AI just changed the whole ball game. I was working on as a consultant for a transformational piece in a not too far trust from where I live now, right? I don't want to name them, but basically they decided to lock down AI. They said, no, we don't want our clinicians using AI for compromising these data sets with real patient data and all of that kind of stuff, yeah? So you couldn't access ChatGPT, for example, via browser. But then Google themselves have started to embed AI within its own search engine.
Yeah.
Automatically. It's just within its own search engine. So then where are we going with this? So like you can it's like trying to hold back the tide. Technological transformation is one where a lot of people on the wrong side of it, when it's done wrongly, feels the fait accompli. It's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
And who am I to block it? It's happening all around us. As the UK and the Western world have accelerated in this space and become more of a consultative industry.
Yeah.
We consult. We don't produce much.
We're knowledge workers, apparently.
Yeah, we're knowledge workers. And that knowledge, even itself, we can outsource it to AI to a greater degree now. We can outsource that to AI. So there's this reckoning that needs to be acknowledged, discussed, and reframed in terms of how much do we let AI, if we could even control it, come within our work-life type balance. What's your view on the 4-day week as this all relates to creating that environment where it can be more conducive?
It still amazes me that the workplace in some ways feels very unchanged in the time that I've been in the workplace. So we're of a similar age. I've been sort of working in organizations, either employed by them or consulting for them for 30 years now. And in some ways, many things have not changed. Okay, there's more computers on desks. People have got mobile phones. We're all connected to the cloud. We can have a conversation like this over, and feel like we're in the same room together. Those things have changed. But in some ways, the basic construct of working 5 days to get to complete your task hasn't changed at all, and hasn't been a lot of conversation about it until, of course, COVID really accelerated that. So whereas before you found a few people, my father, for the last part of his career, worked a 4-day week. He worked longer working hours for 4 days so that he could be at home for 3 days, a longer weekend every weekend. That was like a real outlier. That was an anomaly, and he had to really negotiate hard to get that. And the thing that I'm seeing now is that the idea, that so much more is up for grabs. So the 4-day week is just one. The next question is, well, where do you take that day off in the week? I know some organizations that take Wednesday off. So they, it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Some are Mondays, some are Fridays. Some are, they have compacted all of the 40 hours, let's say it's a 40 hours, into 4 days, so it's 4 10-hour days. And some organizations say, actually, do you know what? We're just going to work for 4 days at the same, 7.5-hour day that we worked before. And I think this is really interesting because this is like a kind of massive experiment that is running concurrently. Sadly, there's no kind of control around it. So really you only hear what the kind of media plays back to you. And at the moment, the media seems to be playing back a lot of talk about organizations bringing people back to the workplace, which I think is a mistake, because there's so much great talent out there that you will lose by enforcing, you've got to be in this working environment, or you've got to be here 4 days a week, whatever. So I think, so your question was, what do I think about the 4-day week? I think that anything that challenges the way that businesses run is good. I think the technology that challenges it is good, but I think there's more challenge coming from younger people entering the workforce now who just think, well, that doesn't seem like a kind of fair exchange. I don't see why I should be in your office for even if you want me in for sort of 2 days a week. Actually, your office isn't that great, and I don't get much done when I'm there, and I'm forced to spend time in pointless meetings doing tasks that don't seem to kind of mean that much. It's not for me. And I think that is where the really kind of interesting friction is within this multi-generational workplace. The 4-day week, I suppose I've always found it tricky, because I have found this isn't intended to sound big-headed, but I've often found that some of the tasks that I've been given, I can get done quite quickly. I can kind of proceed through that. Certain tasks, they come very naturally to me. Where the time is then spent is on that kind of the human to human bit that we talked about earlier. The sort of spending time with people, the non-transactional bit, the softer side of transformation. And for that, you need to be communicating with people. Some of that communication is better in person, but it doesn't all have to be in person, sat in meeting rooms. And it certainly doesn't. I think there's been a lot of talk about the end of the 5-day week, the challenges for organizations to sort of build enough trust amongst their employees that they know they can still get the work done. I don't think we're there yet. I think that the maturity of organizations to embrace it is one of the limiting factors.
Great. No, that's a great response. I'm going to touch upon two things you said there, right? The first one is trust. COVID changed everything. What happens in my home is private to me. Before COVID, you couldn't work from home because of IG issues. What if your child was to walk past and listen to the conversation, whatever it is, you know, could understand it then. COVID changed that. You know, mothers are feeding their children on conference calls, you know, maybe with the camera off. The workplace now is encroached on the employee's homestead.
Yeah.
Yet the conversation from the employer is still stuck on trust. When we can allow them into our home virtually to see our private surroundings, you know, that needs to be reconciled. Absolutely needs to be reconciled. Also, this whole saying of what is good for the goose is good for the gander. And I had this conversation with another brilliant mind just like yourself in transformation, right? And we were talking about politics and value, the value people, you get paid based upon the value that you bring. This was onto your point about like the task that you're doing. Yeah. Right. So if we're going to be employed by the value that we bring, it's not then based upon how long we spend doing a task. That is terminology. That is a scenario that's no longer there. Because if I can do my task in 1 minute, 1 hour, why do I have to sit around for 7 hours? You know? So the conversation, just to recap, I was having a conversation about Donald Trump. If he flies into the UK, Donald Trump will literally have an escort of maybe 100 plus people with him. Donald Trump. If Donald Trump was to, or any other celebrity, don't have Donald Trump, but just try and get the magnitude of the motor convoy, airplane, all of that kind of stuff. Donald Trump comes to your local village with the 100 plus staff personnel to keep him safe and all that kind of stuff, just to open up a kindergarten. Yeah. How much business is he bringing to cut that ribbon in that 1 minute or 5 minutes he stays there?
Yeah.
How much money are all the security team going to be spending in hotels, you know, increasing the food intake and the, you know, awareness of the environment, the press, you know, all of that. All of a sudden now you got your place on the map, but he might have only been there 10 minutes, like to do that operation and left.
Yeah.
You know, so we see that. We all see that value-based pricing is the way our senior leaders are operating. Like this chief executive that only turns up for maybe a couple of meetings a year. We see, your subordinates see that and say, what about me? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. What I've done and accomplished, I too should be getting paid based upon the value of that output, not based upon my length of time physically being there and not adding any value. That's where we get the stuff like people go slow.
Yeah.
Or work just hard enough to maintain the job.
Yeah.
They're quiet quitting. You know, they've actually done their job already. They're just sitting there waiting, wallowing time. They're not going to be allocated any more tasks because if they demonstrate they have done that task, they'll be given another task. That then becomes the new norm. So they rather accept the fact that, okay, I've done my work, technically speaking, on Tuesday, but I've got to ride it out until Friday.
Yeah.
You know, I think...
So there's a couple of interesting things in that. The first is, if you look at the sort of time value exchange, we're in a situation where the way in which we charge for this, particularly in the kind of professional services sector or the sort of knowledge workers sector, anybody, for example, whose work can be charged on an hourly basis is going to suffer from the problem I'm going to start talking about. So accountants, lawyers, consultants, there's a whole raft of people who charge by the hour, or by the day or whatever, or if you're a lawyer, by the sort of 5 or 6 minutes. In some ways, eking the job out is in your interests. So if you're getting paid, I don't know, £500 a day or £1,000 a day or £10,000 a day, if you can make that job last for a week, you're going to be better off. So why would you go at it like a bull at a gate and try and get the job done quickly? The flip side to that is, okay, well, let's try and sort of charge for things based on an output or an outcome. And obviously people in a product business can do that very easily. We'll charge, however many cars come off the assembly line, we'll charge each unit of that comes off. That's what we're going to charge for. And if it took us 10 people to build that car or 100 people, well, that's our problem, and that's our profitability. That's at fault. The challenge particularly within our sector, within the world of transformation and consultancy, is it's quite hard to measure some of those outcomes. Have you really made the difference? How do you break down that statement of work, if you like, into kind of digestible bits? And then, we could spend 10 hours doing it or 100 hours doing it, and that's up to us. But if the client is happy with that, then they don't care how many hours you spent doing it. And there's a really interesting tension there about, how do you kind of like, what do you break it down by the amount of time spent or by the quality of the output? And I've always been about the quality of the output. That's the bit where I'd really love to get to, but the industry doesn't really kind of work that way yet. Sometimes you can, it might be, okay, well, here, I can help you write a business case, or I can help you to put together a strategy, or here's a comms plan, or here's a load of process re-engineering work, and you can kind of break it down. But on the whole, people are still saying, well, we don't really know. We're not the level of knowledge within the kind of buying community isn't always there. And sometimes, in fairness, the level of knowledge within the consulting community isn't always there to know how to kind of do that effectively and efficiently. And then you've got the point you just made about, you've done all the tasks you've been given by Tuesday. So what do you do with the rest of the week? Wouldn't it be nice to go and, I don't know, play golf, gardening, walk your dog, go to the gym, all those kind of, those things that really we should be, for a civilization that has evolved as far as we've had with all this technology at our disposal. Why isn't the 4-day week now a normal thing? Because we can get all the tasks done quicker. So you end up, the kind of behavior that you correctly describe is quiet quitting. People who are able to do the job, they don't want to kind of like raise a flag to say I'm finished, because they'll just get more to do. It's like the successful salesperson who's always given a bigger quota each year or a bigger target, because until they can't make it, and they kind of crash and burn. And so quiet quitting is really a kind of protective, is a release valve, a safety mechanism to prevent people from getting overloaded. But really, wouldn't it be great if the person who could get those tasks done in 2 days taught everybody else how to get the task done in 2 days, and the organization then didn't punish the workforce by saying, okay, well, now that you can all do the tasks in 2 days, we're going to get rid of a third of you we can downsize that part of the function. I'm sort of getting off into a realm that's probably a little bit wishful thinking here, because organizations don't think that way. But if you were to think about it a different way and think about it like this, let's imagine that, the person who could do everything in 2 days had trained everyone else to do in 2 days. Well, what could the organization then usefully do with all that new capacity was at its disposal? Does that mean that, I don't know, the finance function has moved from just kind of reporting and accounting activities into forecasting and predicting activities? Or the product team can suddenly, rather than just kind of fixing loads of backlog of bugs, is now sort of creating new products and new services that have always been on the backlog, but nobody ever had the time to get round to. So I sort of look at, I'm a kind of glass half full person. I always try to sort of think, well, what could you do with all that new resource and capacity that was at your disposal? So that's a bit of a long answer to a short question. You asked, what would you do with a 4-day week?
It is a meaty. So it is definitely a subject worth going down that rabbit hole, because we're in transformation. We absolutely need to go down that rabbit hole and look at the art of the possible. It's the law of diminishing returns comes to mind to anybody that's sitting there fiddling their thumbs with no work to do because they finished it in 2 days. You know, you suffer a lot more just doing nothing, because boredom is a killer. You'll suffer even more. And this is why people then start resenting being at work, because they've done their work. So even in quiet quitting, a byproduct of quiet quitting is you're going to get raised anxiety. You are going to be feeling less fulfilled at work. You are going to be feeling like a fraud. You are going to be very defensive about your practice. You are going to be doing all these things, then going home to your partner, and that's going to be played out in what you're going to be discussing. You know, so it's a law of diminishing returns. But if you take a look at time, you know, that is the key component that binds all of humanity together, and how we respect in time. Because there was a time when the task had to be done within a specified time, because there was a production line. And as we become more technologically enabled, that's not the case. So if I can do my task in an hour because I have decided to train my skills, I'm more capable than the other employee, I should be remunerated as such. I'm not bound to train somebody else. In the same way, a GP is not bound to train a nurse to be a GP. You know, they've done their 7 years of academia to be in that situation. Okay. So the incentive for anybody else who's like, oh, I too want to have a 4-day week, literally a 3-day week, a 2-day week, 1-day week. And to get there, I have to upskill myself. That means we need to take a look and reimagine what it means to educate ourselves. The whole process of this going to work in a university or go and get a big debt, all of that is changing, right? So that's one thing we've got to take a look at. And if we take a look at the companies at the zenith of transformation, the Uberization, and what it means for time. Whereas before you held a taxi, you'd be left in a state of anxiety waiting for the taxi to arrive, not knowing how far it is. Maybe making multiple calls, maybe walking up and down the street, putting yourself at risk, looking for this taxi, right? So your time wasn't being respected. Uber come in and said, no, we will respect your time. So whilst you got the app, you can see your car coming down the street. You can see where it is. It might be enough time for you to brush your teeth. You might have enough time to make a phone call. You might have time to collect yourself, find your keys, prepare your notes, then get in the car, because they've given you back time. So when I go and see my GP, for example, and then I'm sitting in the GP surgery, contracting pathogens, I arrive there on time, and I do not know when I'm going to see my GP. I might be there 45 minutes, even though I've arrived there on time because the clinic is running behind schedule. There's no Uberization of what goes on in that place. There's no respecting of my time. If I knew exactly what time we're going to be seen, I could say I'm going to go to Tesco's or shopping just beforehand and, you know, have everything in order, then go and see my GP, minimizing my risk of catching some sort of a bug in the waiting room. How many people have actually contracted illness just by going to see a GP? So I think there is things happening in humanity through digital transformation that's going to have an impact on everything that we're discussing. And no matter how employers are going to say, oh, we don't want to do it, the genie's out of the bag, out of the
totally.
lamp, and it's doing its own thing.
I think the point you're making about Uber is a really interesting one. And I know it's a bit of a cliche sometimes to talk about the Uberization of things, but let's just spend a minute thinking about what is it that Uber did so well. And it's what you said. They were able to work out how to, where the anxiety points were for people who use taxi services. Can I find one? Will I be in danger while I won't be unsafe while I'm waiting for it? How will I know that they'll get me to the right place on time? How can I give a payment safely? They kind of figured all of that stuff out. And also the point that you made about your waiting in a GP surgery, that the organizations that are thinking about transformation and thinking about it in a way that is most successful are the ones who are thinking about it from a journey of the customer or customer journey point of view. So you think about the companies and organizations that you love to use. It's because they thought about the customer journey. And usually there are many elements of that where when we talk about frictionless journeys, really they're looking to respect your time. You can use your time more valuably when you're using their service, or they don't kind of waste your time or any of those things. Where it gets interesting for me, we talk a lot about customer journey. When we're transforming organizations, sometimes the transformation will look at the kind of the outer layer of the organization and how can it better present itself to its customers and that part of it. But actually really where the kind of juicy stuff for me as a consultant is when you look into the organization, how can you make the journey, let's not call it a customer journey, but maybe the product journey work so much better through that organization. So how can you go from, innovation to production or manufacture or development to formulation to taking this to market to managing your sales pipeline to managing all of the things around IT and people and finance that sit beneath that. How do you make all of that stuff think in the same way as Uber? So if your finance director or your HR director or your IT director had to think about turning their department to be as good as Uber, what is it that they would do? And I was really interested last week during the budget presentation when the Chancellor talked about the budget and the fact that they were going to keep spending for public sector departments at the same level. They weren't going to sort of put more money in. They weren't going to take money out. And how was he going to reconcile that? How could we still deliver what we needed to when we weren't going to give it any more money? And the kind of stock answer of all politicians is, okay, we're going to make it more, we're going to increase productivity. We're going to look at efficiencies and kind of really kind of screw down all of those areas that were not very efficient. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Uber did exactly that, found all those inefficiencies and built a business out of it and scaled it to be a global to dominate globally. Maybe we don't need to kind of, not every organization has the funding or the ambition to be that. But if you were to just think about how to drive that efficiency, it's usually by thinking about those journeys and where the friction points are and how to eradicate that. And this kind of goes back to way back at the beginning where we were talking about like what makes successful transformations and what's our checklist of whether people are kind of satisfied and fulfilled during them. These are the kind of problems which because they're very human problems, if you feel like you're addressing something here, then you're onto a winner. And for me to just close this out, on the radio, I think it was Evan Davis was after the budget, they were talking about, well, okay, it's fine to talk about that. Every politician, every party talks about looking for the efficiencies. Where has this happened? And they were talking about the passport office. And the passport office has really, I don't know if you've applied for a new passport recently, but it is quite staggeringly quick about how you can get a new passport. You would have thought, oh no, this is something that I need to kind of build in like 3 months before I go on holiday, just in case I don't want to be kind of caught out. They have looked at every single area where you can get your photo, how to reuse the photograph from your driving license, how to make sure that the photo that you use isn't rejected, because that was a big problem with passport applications in the past. How they've really kind of looked at improving every single point of friction. So now getting a passport is actually quite a kind of, I wouldn't say it's a delightful experience, but it's surprisingly quick for something that you would have thought would be actually, surprisingly slow still. And it's not. So it
Absolutely.
can be done. And I found that was a really kind of enlightening interview that Evan Davis did with I think it was the former head of the passport office. And it was customer journeys and data. Those were the two kind of ways in which they triangulated that problem. And, it's kind of easy to say, and it's easy to do, and it's hard to do. So, I'm not saying that you just look at those two areas and suddenly that's it. That's the magic formula. You've got to keep looking at them. You've got to get fresh eyes on the problem. You've got to really, and you've got to build a team. We've sort of changed the topic a bit here, but you've got to build a team that feels empowered, which is a kind of overused word, but feels safe to kind of like look into those areas where, perhaps you're going to be sort of turning over a few stones and finding a few things that you didn't want to find, or you'd never really kind of been able to broach that conversation before. So, yeah, I think there's some really interesting things going on. There's a lot for people like us who are in the world of transformation. For me, that was the bit of the budget that I thought, you're talking my language.
No, excellent. And it's rare that politicians understand transformation. They go to the efficiency.
Well, we could easily get lost into why, the whys and wherefores of that. I'm not going to get into, but the language that was used was one that was very much the language of transformation.
No, and it's a beautiful thing when they do that, because it enables us to feel free in transformation, because I like transformation that's unbridled. Mm-hmm. And I like to transform all facets of a business, not just a product or service. It's like if I can improve the quality of life for the employee, it's a win-win situation. So can you imagine a time where an average person in a week can have, say, 3 or 4 employers, meaning they work for 3 or 4 organizations, opposed to how it is now? If you take a look at the average CV, is person X work for corporation Y for a year to 2 years, and it's that across the whole board for like 5-10 years, and that's enough. Where we got AI, we've got the ability to get a lot more work done, and that should mean the ability to cross-formulate our skills across different organizations, opposed to just having the one organization that has you lock, stock, and barrel.
I would love to see that situation, because I think it would be, at an individual level, you'd feel like you were able to kind of contribute in so many ways. You weren't kind of locked down into one kind of, okay, I'm going to trade my time with this organization, and the only way of kind of breaking that contract is if I vote with my feet and go to another organization. And for a while, if you think back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, everyone was about the side hustle. So you'd got the kind of you got the kind of steady banker. You were kind of working for this organization, but you had something going on the side, and that was going to be your passion project. And one day you would get to a position where the passion project could allow you to kind of jettison the employer, and you'd be doing that. But I think that's a model, and some people do it. But I think that organizations should kind of encourage this, because it creates a more sort of entrepreneurial spirit. It allows people to, maybe they only want to be employed in your organization 2 days a week, but they give a huge amount of value in those 2 days that they are there, or a day a month, or whatever it is. And at the moment, the only place I see this really is within within the sort of freelance community where you see people who have these kind of portfolio careers. I'm this slash this slash this. I'm a, and you can kind of put those things in there, and they kind of bolt together a whole load of different things. I mean, I do it. I can point to lots of different things that I do, and I'm not on the payroll of any one organization, but I would love to be on the payroll of an organization and to do some of my own stuff and to be on the payroll of another organization, and for everyone to be cool about that. But it still feels like we're some way away from that. And I actually think that it's going to be the groups of people who have been sort of previously sort of marginalized in the workplace that will drive this the most. I don't think it's going to be people like me that drive it. I think it will be young people entering the workplace, people who have a home life situation where they can't contribute, they only are able to contribute a few days a week or a month or whatever it is, people who have maybe been overlooked or excluded from particular roles within an organization, who actually now find their voice and find like a kind of they kind of are able to mobilize as a group to force organizations to make decisions. Because if you look at it from the point of view of the organization, it takes a really enlightened organization to be able to offer that sort of thing. And most organizations, let's face it, they're kind of a bit lazy. What's in it for them? Why would they change? They're only going to change because they have to. And the reason they'll have to is because the workforce no longer buys that contract anymore. It's this, it's the same as going from like a 6-day week to a 5-day week. Eventually, people just didn't buy it. It just wasn't going to work. They didn't. They kind of forced a change there, and I think that's it. That's where, I hope I'm still in the workplace to kind of see that change. I can definitely see it in the generation of my children. So long as they haven't been too conditioned by our thinking, and they have the confidence to go at it with a kind of fresh pair of eyes, I could see exactly that situation that you describe. I hope it happens in my life, in my working lifetime, but I don't know. It's a really hard one to call.
It's a hard one, but it's good to imagine. And as you're saying it, you're smiling, your eyes are bright, because you can see it's a liberating. There's a fluidity to what we're describing. There's a humanity to what we're describing, opposed to the shackles of working for just one employer. When you got so much more, people are multidimensional. You got different passions. And to say to somebody, you go to school, higher education, university, maybe, to be locked in exclusively within the remit of one organization. And that organization, if we bring it back to our beginning, some of the key issues that we raised at the beginning, to one organization to be the sole bearer for your authenticity, for your connections, to help you find purpose, for your security, without fear of punishment. In that one organization you work for equity, it's too much of a task. I think it would be more lenient if we had a variety of different environments that we lend our skills to, and be less pressurized. Three things spring to mind as you were speaking. One is, there's a sense of inevitability to what we're talking about here. One, the government's already talking about things they're trying to transform with the UK Passport Agency. There's a hire and fire that the government talked about, trying to eradicate hire and fire. Hire and fire is rife across most industries. Yeah, I've been in jobs where as a consultant, I've applied for the permanent job. I've been unsuccessful for the permanent job, but I still do the permanent job, but as a consultant. Yeah. This is rife, of course, the NHS, and so that's possibly due to the pensions and all the other ways of cutting the cost. But this hire and fire, 0 hours contracts, they're rife. Globalization is rife. This whole notion of waiting for or asking your employees to come back into the office. It's born out of a time when the average, and this is a statistic via UK Employment Agency, I forgot the full extension, the average person would have I think 45-minute journey to the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
This is pre-COVID. So when they're saying, and your employer says, come back to the office, one, they have not fully reconciled that not only is the UK no longer in the EU, Brexit happened, they can work from home. And once the employer realizes, actually, they also can employ people that no longer are 45 minutes away from the office.
Yeah.
They can employ people anywhere on the globe. Once that really kicks in, they'll make different economic decisions because they'll be working with the strength of the pound versus the strength of the rupee, you know, and then maximizing the work, the labor by using that combination. And for anybody that's outsourced to people to work overseas, those people that we use work for 3 or 4 organizations already.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're already doing it. So it's like the UK, we sometimes we're the sleeping giant because we've been comfortable for so many years, you know? But the rest of the world, they're far more enterprising in terms of understanding this new situation that we find ourselves in.
I'm with you. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there's if I think back to times, the point you were making about sort of this sort of limiting way in which employment in the UK works, the companies where I've been on the payroll of an organization, the companies that I've stayed with longest have usually been the ones that have offered the most variety. I've maybe changed jobs several times within that organization. They're growing, so there's new opportunities. They're kind of creating opportunities as they grow. And those are the ones that for me, are the most exciting. They offer, you don't get stale in them. And it's very hard if and even then, and despite saying all of that, I still chose to leave them. So there must have been something where I felt, well, look, I've kind of topped out here. I want to go and do something else. And usually it was something that, they weren't they hadn't sort of adopted a technology that I was interested in that I thought was going to be a big deal. So, at the end of the 90s, the company I was working for, they weren't that hot on sort of internet technology. They didn't really sort of have a sort of big capability. They were all about a sort of, a different kind of installed client server type architectures. And I could see the internet was going to be this huge thing. And I wanted to be a part of that. And that required, and the only way I could see to be a part of it was to kind of, jump ship and find another employer. And yet I really liked the company before. In fact, I often describe them as they were one of my favorite employers. I loved working there, but it just wasn't, it just wasn't growing fast enough and didn't have the sort of flexibility that you talked about earlier about being able to sort of work across multiple organizations at the same time. And I suppose I get, as a consultant now, as an independent consultant, I get more variety. I'm able to sort of, balance multiple projects, but it's still, you still are broadly focused around one client at any one time. It's hard to sort of do that portfolio thing that I described earlier, although I would love to be able to do it, but it's difficult to pull that off.
Yeah. And I think as we frame this conversation around fun, and I push the point from a devil's advocate perspective, like what's the point in having fun? You can kind of like see how this conversation has unfolded, that is absolutely vital, that fun is born out of the flexibility, the respect for your time.
Yeah.
For your time and how you choose to spend your time is entirely up to you. Opposed to you have to use your time the way your employer wants you to use your time, the way your GP wants you to use your time. I.e., you sit down there and you wait for your 45 minutes, 55 minutes, then I'll call you in.
Yeah.
It's not respecting your time. I think once people feel respected the time, they can do a lot more because technology is supposed to give us back more time.
Yes.
And if we have blown Moore's laws out the window, we should have a lot more time on our hands.
And where is it?
We must.
Yeah.
And where is it? And I think sometimes that's a conversation that we as individuals needs to have. And I think it's a great point that you talked about your children and how you need to hopefully the situation improves for them so that they can relearn or be taught and enabled to maximize the opportunities that they're going to have, because there should be more free range. The world is really opening up for them. Borders, working across different time zones is no big deal. Anyone can do it now before you have to charter a plane or whatever the case may be. But now everything is so quick. You can be, literally omnipresent, with a post, with the value that we're offering. So it's in that place, I believe, that's where fun is going to be. Because if I can take lessons from one organization, bring it to another organization, both organizations are they're accelerating. Mm-hmm. But the worst thing is having a conversation where you're all blindsided, sitting around a boardroom table, analyzing, do a tail of the tape, a gap analysis of what our competitors are doing, and doing a search on Google and whatever it is to try and find intel, when, there was nothing stopping somebody actually being a consultant, as long as, we've got this thing, NDAs and all that kind of stuff. But I still believe even outside of that, we should be able to be more flexible. That's where we're going to find the fun and the meaning in a way that's going to be redefined for the human being in a way it's never been done before.
Yeah.
Never been done before.
You've got my vote.
I've enjoyed that journey because we did touch upon some very serious topics.
This has been a really interesting one for me.
Massive.
We went in quite a few directions in this conversation. I wasn't expecting to go in, actually, and I'm really glad we did. I think there's some really good challenges there, and I don't know. It felt like this is going to. It felt like we're just kind of scratching the surface on some of these things, but this was a good one.
Yeah, no, I agree. We dust off the cobwebs, and so I look forward to our next one. What I will do is we'll sit down and discuss, and because I'm sure there are quite a few other topics we're going to discuss around books, and I got the book I wanted to talk about here, which was we're going to save it for the next session, folks. The Creative Act, A Way of Being.
This is Rick Rubin, right? Yeah.
I've read it now twice. It's just fantastic. Yeah. It's just there's so much in here that I want to really sit down with you and break down.
I would love to. So I think because this kind of carries on from. So we were talking about the kind of the sort of human aspect of transformation there. Creativity is an innately human thing. And I think that it's the bit of everyone's talking about how, like, I don't know, AI is going to sort of basically kind of kill the photography industry or kill the, everything, but it isn't. It really isn't. And I think there's definitely something in that kind of creative piece there. Also, where I'm particularly interested, so I've been looking at a potential project with an organization which is trying to better integrate their creative function. They have a design function, a big engineering organization. They have a design and creative function. And how do you join those people together? Because often the kind of creative people are sort of the kind of awkward bit of the jigsaw puzzle. You can't fit in anywhere else, but that's the beauty of it, right? So I've seen that book in the bookstore a number of times. I've been umming and ahhing whether to buy it. Now that you've got it, I'm going to get it.
No, it is fascinating. Rick Rubin is a giant in the music industry. The guy behind Def Jam Records, Beastie Boys, all of that kind of stuff. And he creates the environment for the artist to be creative. Mm-hmm. He's not trained in any instruments. I've seen videos of him.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, his approach. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what giving people freedom to play, to have fun, to respect their time, give them the tools to create, embracing the creative process, as you're saying. This is the missing link. I was trained in mechatronics. My background is I'm a mechatronic engineer, mechanical, electrical, computer design, testing engineer. It was a qualification I did many moons ago, sponsored by Toyota.
Oh, wow.
I think we spoke about this, I think, in our very first session. You know, that's how I got into this whole transformational space. So as an engineer, I'm trained in all aspects of engineering, all the big disciplines, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, computer, testing, design. Why is that? The Japanese learned a very long time. All the engineers have to know all the elements of engineering and respect those disciplines. So they will never build a car that can never be built. So if you leave it up to the creatives who have no understanding of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, you wonder why a concept car never comes to the production line, because they've got no understanding of mechanics, engineering. So all of their engineers can work across all different areas of the business and have the understanding, you know. Okay. So I'm a firm believer that the creative spirit is one that if you untap it, if you unlock it, you know, your organization will go in ways that you could never even fathom. You know, with that, it's almost like, have you ever heard a beautiful song and thinking, where's the song been all my life? The melody's on point. It's like, but that song at some stage never existed. The instruments were always there, but it never was arranged in that sequence of events. Yeah, the gaps between the notes have never been put in that sequence of a 3.5-4 minute track. And you listen to it for the first time, you go, wow, I need the whole album. I'm going to follow this band for life. And that's what we try and do as I'm a creative. I understand engineering, but that is what I want to get out all the people are influence, is to waken up their creative spirit and say, do you know what? Go out, create something. We were created, whether you believe, subscribe to the Big Bang, or whether you believe in intelligent design, we were created. I think everybody can accept that. So as being created, we can create. So when we don't create, that's when we get frustrated. Yeah. And that's like what we talk about here. The more removed we are from creation or co-creating, the more dissatisfied we are. And the word you said, resentism, starts to creep in. You're not building nothing.
It's just meaningless. I'm going to get the book. So I've seen it in the bookstore several times. I thought, I want to get that, and now you give me a reason to.
Yeah. If some people call it wishy-washy, because again, there's no empirical evidence to support this, and sometimes I'm a firm believer that if you analyze data too much, you don't get anything out of the data. Yeah, because the magic sits outside of the numbers. Like, so getting quotas for, say, equitable business. You have a quota for people in positions. You still have dissatisfaction in that organization. You see, you got the numbers to tick off, but you still got high staff turnover. You still got people dissatisfied. You're not increasing your sales, but the numbers are matching. But an organization that doesn't actively go out to crunch those numbers or to create that artificial, sterile dream team, you know, you see them doing great things. You know, it's just sometimes, we exist outside of the zeros and the ones.
Yeah, that's so true. No, I look forward to that.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out micdropclub.com and get the show notes and useful links. Subscribe to the podcast. Don't just live life, make life boom.